All right, we've all heard about the incredible power of AI models like ChatGPT. They're built with these super sophisticated safety guardrails, right? But what if I told you those guardrails are, well, a little more fragile than you think? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the world of AI security and look at something fascinating, the art of jailbreaking. We're talking about how a single sentence can sometimes bring these massive billion-dollar systems to their knees.
So, let's just get right to it. The big question is, are these AI guardrails unbreakable? I mean, you'd probably imagine it takes some sort of elite team of hackers, writing complex code, finding some deep, hidden software flaw to get past them.
Well, the truth is actually way wilder. Often, these incredibly powerful systems can be totally bypassed with just a single sentence. That's it. It's not a hack that uses malware or code. It's a hack that uses words.
And that brings us to this whole new frontier of security. We're talking about breaking AI with words.
Yeah, this really isn't what you probably think of when you hear the word hacking. I mean, forget malware, forget trying to get server access. LLM jailbreaking is a completely different beast. It's an art form, really. It's all about crafting the perfect prompt and turning the AI's own logic and its own understanding of context right back against itself.
Okay, so let's put a name to this. The official term is LLM jailbreaking. And really, what it is the process of tricking an AI into just ignoring its own safety rules. You do it by manipulating the conversation, the prompts, the whole context. It's less like breaking down a door and more like, well, it's like social engineering a machine.
So that leads us to the good stuff, the Jailbreaker's Toolkit. And just to be clear, these aren't your typical software exploits. Nope. These are powerful, clever language techniques, all designed to confuse, mislead, and ultimately override the AI's own programming.
All right, first step, we've got what's probably the most common and honestly the most intuitive technique out there. It's called the role-play attack.
This is so clever. Instead of directly asking the AI to do something it knows it shouldn't, you tell it to act like a character who would have no problem doing it. You're basically creating a fictional sandbox, a little pretend scenario, and that creates a perfect loophole in its safety logic.
So why on earth does this work? Well, it cuts right to a core weakness of these models. Think about it. LLMs are trained on mountains of text from the internet, books, scripts, you name it. They're amazing at playing roles. So when you give it an instruction to role play, that instruction can become a higher priority than its built-in safety rules. It gets confused about what its main job is. Be safe or be a good actor.
Okay, let's look at another tool in the kit. This next one is a little more technical, but it's still all about playing with words. It's called token smuggling.
Just like the name suggests, the whole goal here is to sneak forbidden words past the first line of defense, the security filters. So an attacker might do something like encode a harmful phrase using base64, or maybe just write it backwards, or even split a bad word into different parts across the prompt. The simple filter just scanning the text, it doesn't see the red flag. But the AI model itself, with its much deeper level of understanding, it sees it and it puts the pieces back together.
And that's exactly why it works. You've got this huge gap between a simple surface-level filter and the model's actual deep semantic understanding. Think of it like this. The filter is like a security guard who's only looking for one specific forbidden word written on a piece of paper. But the AI, it can read that paper even if it's written in code or backwards, and it understands the meaning behind the words, reassembling the whole dangerous idea in its head.
All right, our last technique is a fascinating one because it doesn't exploit logic. It exploits a physical limitation of the AI itself. We're talking about its memory. This is the context overflow attack.
Okay, picture this. The AI has something like a short-term memory, which we call its context window. What the attacker does is just flood it. They throw a giant, messy, irrelevant wall of text at the AI. And what happens? The original safety instruction, that little voice in its head that says, be safe, be helpful, be harmless, it gets pushed further and further and further back until, poof, it pretty much falls right out of the AI's active memory. The reason this is so effective is because that context window isn't infinite. There's a limit. So those super important safety rules it got at the very beginning, they just get washed out, totally diluted by this fire hose of new information. And once those guardrails are basically forgotten, the attacker can slip in their real prompt, and they're talking to a model that's now effectively unprotected. Okay, so we've seen the how, the different techniques. But that begs a much bigger question, the why. Why are these incredibly powerful, sophisticated models so vulnerable to these kinds of language games?
This gets us to the very heart of the matter, the real ghost in the machine.
This is probably the single most important thing to get your head around. We naturally think of an AI as a logic machine, right? Like a computer running on a set of rules. But that's not what it is, at all. At its very core, an LLM isn't a rule engine, it's a probability engine. It's a system designed to be amazing at one specific thing.
And here it is, the big secret. The model doesn't understand rules in the way we do. It only understands one thing. What word is the most statistically likely to come next based on everything it's seen before? So a jailbreak isn't about breaking a rule. It's about changing the game. The attacker crafts a prompt that reshapes the entire context so that the harmful response suddenly becomes the most statistically probable one. They're not picking a lock. They're convincing the model that the forbidden door is the one it was always meant to open.
Okay, once you understand that core vulnerability, you start to see the real-world stakes. This isn't just some academic thought experiment. It has serious, real-world consequences, which is why the other side of this coin, the shields, is such a high-stakes, constant game of cat and mouse.
And these aren't small potatoes. We're talking about successful jailbreaks leading to the generation of really harmful, dangerous content. It can lead to sensitive, private data getting exposed, and it gets even scarier when you think about AI agents that are connected to real-world tools. A jailbreak there could be disastrous. This is exactly why the field of AI red teaming has just exploded.
So how do you fight back? How do you build a better guardrail? Well, there's no magic bullet, unfortunately. The only real answer is a layered defense. You have to do things like isolate the core system prompts so they can't be pushed out of memory. You need to sanitize and transform user inputs to spot those sneaky smuggling tricks. You absolutely need moderation layers on the output, just in case something gets through. And maybe most important of all, you need continuous testing by red teams, people whose whole job is to think like an attacker and break the system before the bad guys do.
And all of this really leaves us with a huge, lingering question. What we've seen is that an AI's entire reality, its understanding of its own rules, can be completely reshaped just with words. So, as these incredibly powerful systems get woven deeper and deeper into the fabric of our lives, what does it mean for our future when the reality of our most powerful tools is, well, so negotiable?